We are now arriving at the most used research strategy out of all among bachelor and master students in business administration, and that is called a case study. And the reason why this is so used strategy is that it can really provide you with some interesting data and even more interesting results. The downside of it is that the methodological choice and the methodological reasoning behind it is a little bit harder to justify. So let's go through it step by step so that you are able to use case study as your research strategy. Case study has a very simple definition. Case study is about studying a phenomena within its context. Now let's remind ourselves of our previous video where we have discussed experiments. In the experiments, we had a phenomena within its environment or within its context, let's say, and we have influenced this phenomena. Now with case study, we don't want to influence this phenomena at all. So case study is the exact opposite to experiment, and that is very important to understand. If you are doing the case study, you don't want as a researcher to be sort of part of that context, to be part of that environment. And the case study you will select this case as a phenomena and you will study its relationship with the context or with the other cases under the same context. As you see, the idea is pretty simple. It is important to understand that it's exact opposite of the experiment. Let's go through some major steps when it comes to the execution of a case study as a research strategy. The first step is always within any research strategy to have a strategy that fits your research question and all of your previous methodological choices. Now I have great news for you. Case study works very well with all three choices of research nature. The case study can be used within the exploratory research because it can give you those initial insights into the phenomena that you need within the exploratory research. It can as well be used in the descriptive research nature because you can select what we call a multiple case study, we'll get to it later, and examine the relationships between variables. And finally, it works very well also with the explanatory research because it allows you to explain why that phenomena is happening, because you can go really deep into the phenomena with, let's say, a single holistic case study. But we will talk about it later. That's a first step, and I have great news for you. Whatever your research nature is, you can select case study as your research strategy. Second step in the process of executing is called selecting a case, as it is a case study. Now we have two options here. You can have a single case study and multiple case study. And let's talk through an example. Let's say that you would like to examine some niched market and its characteristics and the companies which are inside of this niched market. Now, if you would go for a single case study, you would pick one of these companies as your case. If you would go for multiple case studies, you would take, let's say, 5 or 10 of these companies as your cases. Now, regardless of which option you will go for, it will be always hard to justify why have you selected this one company or these several companies. This is always hard when you are doing a case study because that is going to be what we call a sample. Now, when you are going to have some findings from this your sample, they need to be generalizable. So sort of your findings should be applicable to the whole phenomena that is happening. Maybe in our case, the whole market that is out there. So if you select a single case study, you are going to be sort of opposed by your examiner with questions such as, why do you think that this one company that you have selected is sort of representative? Why do you think that the findings that you make in this company are going to be sort of relatable by the other companies that are out there in the same market? If you select multiple case study, it's going to be even more tricky because you are going to have, let's say, 10 companies. And we are examining what makes some of these companies successful in the field and what makes some of these companies not successful in the field. Now, how you should select these 10 companies if you, as a researcher, are sort of trying to find this key to success in the industry? Well, should you select 10 companies which became successful in the field? Or should you select 10 companies which became unsuccessful in the field? Or maybe you should select 5 successful ones and 5 unsuccessful ones. So as you see, the justification of why have you selected your case the way you selected it is a very important part of your research if you are going for a case study as your research strategy. Third step is called selecting a depth of your research within your case. Again, you have two options here. You either go for a holistic case study or embedded case study. So you could have selected the previous option as you wanted. You could have gone for single case study or multiple case study, and now you can go for holistic or embedded. So these do not have any sort of relationships between each other. So holistic case study is about studying the case as a whole, as a whole entity, while if you go for embedded case study, you are studying just some part of this case. If we would stick to our example, if we would go for holistic case study, we would take, let's say, one single company and examine every process in it, every aspect, every relationship of this company with the market within which it is operating. While if we would go for embedded case study, we would maybe examine just the sales and marketing of this company, or maybe we would examine just the accounting processes and accounting practices. But I think you can feel it. If you choose to go for a holistic case study, you are most likely going to end up with a single case study, because if you really want to go for a holistic approach, you are going to end up with a lot of data, a lot of information. And if you would like to collect such huge amounts of information about 10 companies, sort of having multiple case study, that would be just limitless amount of information that you as a researcher would have to process. So common practice is to have a single case study and holistic approach, and multiple case study and embedded approach. While if you have this multiple case study and embedded approach, you are comparing this one aspect within each of these cases with each other, so that you have a nice comparison and it can all work out nicely for you. This is a very common practice. So what to conclude about case study as your research strategy? Well, if you are a bachelor or master student, it can be really a great choice for you, because as I said, it can provide you with some really interesting findings, with some really interesting data, and also it can be a lot of fun. And now I'm telling this from my own experience. So good luck if you decide to go for case study as your research strategy.